Welcome back to the world according to Briggs, and I am here to warn you about Montana. Montana looks fantastic in photographs. Snowy mountains, clear rivers, wide open land, and towns where the tallest building is probably a grain elevator or something. In recent years, thousands of people have made that leap to Big Sky Country. Between 2020 and 2025, Montana added roughly 60,000 people to its population. A lot of that is the post-pandemic stampede, and it's slowed down here in 2026. A lot of the newcomers are slowly realizing Montana isn't one giant version of Bozeman surrounded by Yellowstone scenery and great fishing. Some may even think they made a serious mistake moving there. So if you want to give Montana a try and not regret it, there's probably some things you should know. So that's what we're doing in this video today. We're looking at things that haven't already been overdone by every relocation channel on YouTube. Let's take a look. Number 10, Montana is two different states wearing one license plate. Most outsiders picture Western Montana. That's all they picture. They don't think about the east side. They imagine Bozeman, Missoula, Whitefish, Helena, and the mountain valley surrounding them like an outdoor magazine. That's what Montana used in tourism commercials, television shows, and online real estate fantasies involving enormous windows and absolutely no visible neighbors. Eastern Montana is a completely different creature. I've gone through there on the train a few times, and it is boring to look at. I can't imagine living there. How boring that must be. But it is flatter, drier, more farming, more isolation, and it's filled with communities that have population growth that ranges from the local real estate agent actually got a call to other towns when they're breaking records with 2 families moving in this year. Now, the difference between the two matters because the affordable Montana and the famous Montana are rarely standing in the same zip code. You might find a reasonably priced house in eastern or north central Montana, but you won't necessarily have the mountain town lifestyle you pictured. Meanwhile, the towns with ski slopes, breweries, airports, and dramatic peaks increasingly require a budget that says, I sold software in Seattle. So don't ask yourself whether you want to move to Montana. Ask yourself, which Montana do you want to move to? Number 9, your town may be fighting a civil war over growth. Montana's fastest growing communities aren't merely getting bigger. They're having an identity crisis with zoning hearings. In places like Flathead, Bozeman, Whitefish, and the Bitterroot Valley, the argument isn't simply between locals and newcomers. It's between people who want more housing, people who want no development, landowners who want fewer restriction, workers who need somewhere affordable to live, and investors who think every spare bedroom deserves its own Airbnb listing. Flathead County updated its growth policy in 2024, requiring short-term rentals to jump through some extra hoops. They also changed their property tax in 2026 to give lower rates to qualifying primary residents and long-term rentals. Now, these aren't like obscure bureaucratic details. These are signs that housing, tourism, development, and local control have become some of the state's biggest pressure points. The strange part is that almost everyone agrees there's a housing problem. They just disagree on every possible solution. Build apartments and someone says you're destroying the town. Don't build apartments and local workers can't afford to stay. Restrict vacation rentals and property owners complain. Allow more vacation rentals and the neighborhood slowly turns into a hotel where nobody knows who forgot to roll the garbage cans back. As a newcomer, you might get pulled right into the argument before you've finished unpacking. So before moving, look beyond the house and study what the community's becoming. Find out if they're about to put in a data center across the street from the local daycare. You're not just buying into the Montana that exists today. You may be buying a town that's halfway through deciding whether it wants to become a resort, a suburb, or a place where the internet decided it needs a giant building the size of a small country. Number 8, rural property and the utility department. The affordable house outside of town may look wonderfully independent, and the listing even says independent. It could also mean you're responsible for the well, the septic system, propane tank, private road, snow shovel, snow removal, drainage, fencing, internet connection, and whatever mysterious pump begins screaming at 2 in the morning. Montana owns the state's water on behalf of the citizens, while individuals hold legal rights to use it. Buying land with a stream, spring, ditch, or well doesn't automatically mean you have unlimited water for free. Rural properties also commonly rely on septic systems. This is something people forget all the time. You get a septic system and you got to pay for someone to come pump that crap out, literally. You'll get regular inspections and, obviously pumping, and older systems can eventually require expensive replacements. Get the well tested, inspect the septic system, verify the water rights, find out who maintains the road, ask where the propane comes from, and how often it's delivered. Off the grid sounds romantic until you realize that the grid used to handle a lot of the tedious nonsense. Number 7, public land isn't always publicly reachable. Montana has enormous amounts of public land, but access can be surprisingly complicated. Some public parcels are surrounded by private property and lack a public road. State trust lands are legally accessible when reached through public roads or adjacent public land. But here's the difficult part. You can't cross someone's private property to get to that public land. It almost sounds like you should, but no, there's serious laws. You have to get permission to cross someone's land to go to the land in the middle. Or you buy a frickin' helicopter like Harrison Ford and go where the hell you want. Now this creates tension between landowners, hunters, anglers, hikers, and newcomers who assume every dirt road leads to an outdoor adventure. Some roads cross private ranches. Some gates need to stay closed. Some areas require notification, permits, or seasonal restrictions. So if you're gonna buy by public land, study the actual access points instead of admiring the green color parcels on the real estate map. Number 6, the wildlife. Wildlife is one of Montana's biggest attractions. It also occasionally stands in the middle of the damn highway at night, staring at your headlights with the confidence of an animal that's never seen the movie Red Asphalt. Montana has one of the country's highest wildlife vehicle collision rates per person. State maintenance crews collect more than 6,000 animal carcasses annually, while the Montana Highway Patrol responds to on average 3,200 wildlife collisions each year. Deer are the everyday problem, but depending on the region, drivers may encounter elk, moose, bear, bighorn sheep, livestock, or elderly gentlemen who get launched onto the highway by a bison. Dawn and dusk become less about enjoying the scenery and more about scanning the roadside for a 700-pound surprise with antlers. Wildlife also affects your gardens, garbage, pets, fences, insurance claims, and what you leave on the porch. A newcomer may think a bear wandering through the yard is magical. The longtime resident is wondering if that idiot forgot to secure his trash cans. Living near wildlife requires habits, not just admiration. Slow down, use proper food storage, understand local bear rules, protect small animals, and budget for the possibility that your car may eventually lose an argument with a deer. Number 5, no sales tax, with an asterisk. Montana's lack of statewide general sales tax is real, and it's a legitimate benefit. But some people hear no sales tax and mentally translate that into the government has chosen to operate entirely on donations. Montana, unlike Wyoming, still has individual income tax. For tax year 2025, the ordinary income rates were 4.7 and 5.9, depending on the income and the filing status. Property taxes, fuel taxes, lodging taxes, vehicle costs, and various fees also remain very much alive in Big Sky country. So yes, you could buy a television without any sales tax in Montana. You could also buy a very expensive car in Montana, even though you're from like Tennessee or North Carolina, and then your local government will come and arrest you for dodging taxes. Yes, since there's no sales tax, a lot of people will buy exotic cars in Montana. Go to an exotic car show, look at all the license plates. They're probably going to say Montana, even though the car show's in Nevada or Arizona or California. There's a YouTuber right now named Whistlin' Diesel, and he bought a really expensive car and registered it with his LLC that's in Montana. Well, Tennessee saw that he did that and they actually arrested him for tax evasion. What I hate is this is just about some local DA that wants to kind of stick it to a YouTuber that happens to be famous. But yeah, buy a very expensive car in Montana, not California. Number 4, remote work can end at the property line. Montana seems perfect for remote work. Sit near the window, stare at the mountains, answer emails, and pretend your employer is funding your extended outdoor vacation. That works beautifully until the internet stops working beautifully. Montana has spent heavily to close its broadband gaps. One state program approved 61 projects covering nearly 62,000 serviceable locations, including more than 38,000 locations classified as underserved when those projects were selected. Now, here's the deal. If you're living too far away from town, you're going to have some internet problems unless you get a satellite internet like Starlink. That's an Elon Musk company that does pretty well until there's really bad weather. Now, I'm not talking about weather on this video because everybody knows winters and weather in Montana can be crazy. But that nice Starlink system you got runs into problems when the weather gets bad. And your boss might not be too pleased if this happens continually through the winter months. So you gotta look for those towns that advertise high-speed internet. And then you gotta make sure the address you're moving to actually has that. Believe it or not, a lot of towns in Montana rely on fixed wireless, satellite, and aging copper lines or cellular hotspots that you gotta position a little antenna to your window. Trees, mountains, weather, tower location, and terrain can complicate service for you. This is one thing a lot of people didn't realize when they were moving to places like Idaho and Nevada and even Colorado back in the day. It's become less of a thing now, but it still can affect your life. And I know I'm going to get some comments in the comment section informing me that not everyone needs internet. Yes, not everyone does, but you're definitely in the minority. And it's a very small minority. If you look at Zillow and look at the homes, you will constantly see as one of the benefits has internet. Now that might make you think that it has high-speed internet. No, it might be dial-up. So make sure you ask the questions. Check the monthly costs, speed tests, data limits, installation history, and reliability during storms. Number 3, Montana wages and Montana housing. Montana's economy has grown, wages have improved, and employers continue to report worker shortages. Unfortunately, home prices have spent several years behaving like every single resident won the lottery. This mismatch between wages and home prices is especially noticeable in popular Western communities. Restaurants, schools, hospitals, hotels, ski areas, local government, and small businesses need employees, but the housing near those workplaces have been priced for remote executives, investors, and second home buyers. Now, obviously, if you're moving there with an established remote income or you're wealthy and retired, that's one thing. Moving first and planning to find a local job afterwards is another. Montana has opportunities, particularly in healthcare, construction, technical services, and skilled trades, but check local wages against local housing rather than the statewide average. Statewide averages blend Bozeman with towns where the nearest luxury condo is probably a double wide with new skirting or something like that. Number 2, wildfire risk and housing expense. Many potential homeowners look at the map and the pictures of the house they're going to buy. They see the forest and they think, that forest is beautiful. Insurance companies look at the same thing and think, that house is basically kindling. Montana's Housing Task Force noted that insurers cannot reject a property solely because it sits within the border of a wildfire risk zone, but companies can still make decisions based on the individual's property-specific risk. Factors may include vegetation, road access, building materials, water supply, distance from fire department, and the local department's protection rating. Now, that can affect premiums, deductibles, required mitigation work, and then you got to see if one of these companies is willing to insure you at a reasonable rate. A property that looks affordable on a listing may become less charming once the insurance estimate arrives carrying a flamethrower. The good news is that Montana's Department of Natural Resources offers free home-wide risk assessment. A fire professional can inspect the property, identify vulnerabilities, and recommend ways to reduce the danger. Get that done, do what's required, and you might get a better rate. But definitely get an insurance quote before making an offer. Ask about the roof, siding, vents, decks, trees, emergency access, evacuation routes, and defensible spaces. Don't wait until closing to discover that wooded privacy you loved is viewed by an insurance company as a forest-themed liability convention. All right, before we get to number one, if you're thinking about moving to any other state, any other city in the US, there's a link for Home and Money in the description area below. They can get you in touch with a real estate agent anywhere in the country. All right, on to number one. And number one, convenience isn't really a Montana thing. Montana's labor market has faced a persistent worker shortage for roughly a decade. Even as population and employment grew, employers struggled to fill positions. In December of 2025, the state still had about 23,000 job openings and a job opening rate above the national average. The shortage doesn't only affect large companies. It can mean limited restaurant hours, contractors booked months in advance, fewer childcare openings, difficulty finding home healthcare workers, longer vehicle repair waits, and one person in town who knows how to fix your furnace but is currently helping everybody else. In larger cities, you can usually call another company. In a small Montana community, another company may be located 90 miles away and charge enough mileage to make you wonder whether they're arriving by helicopter. This is where Montana's community culture becomes important. People rely on neighbors, local relationships, recommendations, volunteer fire departments, community organizations, and informal networks. You may have to participate rather than anonymously consume services from the background. That can be one of the state's greatest strengths, but it also can be uncomfortable for someone who wants solitude but expects urban conveniences to materialize whenever an appliance starts making concerning noises. All right, so should you move to Montana? You should if you value open space, outdoor recreation, smaller communities, a slower pace more than convenience. It also helps if you're financially stable, comfortable driving long distances, willing to maintain property, and prepared to research individual towns instead of treating the entire state as one large national park. All right, that's today's video. If you like that one, I know you're gonna like this one. It's ranking all the states by their beaches. Everyone have a great day. Be nice to each other.